السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Inshallah, my voice is loud.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. Verily, all praise and all thanks and all of the glorification and all of the magnification is due to Allah and Allah alone. And I publicly, I inwardly, and I outwardly declare and attest and profess that there is nothing or no one that deserves to be worshipped except for Allah Jalla fi Ula. And as for my ancestors, Ya Ikhwan, they used to worship the great spirit in this land, what is known as the Manitou. As I come from my father's lineage, I come from the Ajishnabi Ojibwa people. My ancestors were living in this land more than 200 years ago on my father's side. And this dawah, ya ikhwan, this dawah, this call to La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, it is for everyone in every place. Kullu makan wa kullu zaman, every place and every time, ya ikhwan. But now comes the question. The Muslims have become a laughing stock in the world, ya ikhwan. And we need to go back to the Abra Atiq, the ancient Muslim sources, and to find out what was the success of the Muslims before. And when we look at it, ya ikhwan, we need to look at it in the light of what is known as at-tasfiyah wa tarbiyah, the filtration of the information that we're getting and we're practicing, and the cultivation, the actual tarbiyah, ya ikhwan, that is going on amongst the ranks of the Muslims. And we find that great Imam Ad-Dar al-Hijrah, Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi, he said something so profound in his time that if we were to cut and paste and bring it into our time, it would be right on the money. He went on to say, Imam Malik rahmatullah, he went on to say, لا يصلح الآخر حال الأمة إلا ما أصلها أولها. He went on to say that the latter part of the ummah, the thing that corrected them will correct the us, the thing that corrected the earlier part of the ummah will correct the latter part, ya ikhwan. So what the Muslims were upon before, we have to sit and we have to look at it with what they call ayn fahisa, with a critical eye. The Muslims were upon what, ya ikhwan, that made them successful? Kitab and Sunnah, on the understanding of the Sahaba, Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. From the time that I embraced Islam more than 30 years ago, coming from a family that was confused in their belief process, many different denominations of Christians, as well as some native beliefs, ya ikhwan, Allah, He guided me to al-Islam, to be the voice of Islam amongst the people of my tribe, to be able to come and to tell the people of Canada that you have to worship Allah Azza wa Jal if you want salama in the akhirah, ya ikhwan. Now many of us, we try to be law-abiding citizens. It is from us to be law-abiding citizens, ya ikhwan. But at the same time, many Muslims, unfortunately, they're breaking the laws in Canada, and the jails which we've worked in the past are filled with Muslims all throughout Canada, ya ikhwan. We find there's drug dealers and gang leaders and Muslims that are doing horrible things, ya ikhwan. We've worked with many of them. And some people say, well, it's not my children that are doing these things. So, ya ikhwan, it could happen to our kids. So the problem, ya ikhwan, I really believe as a new Muslim who embraced Islam many years ago, that our problem is we're not studying the Book of Allah the way that it needs to be studied. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He has encouraged the believers. Allah Ta'ala went on to say, after I say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَلَكِنْ كُنُوا رَبَّانِيِّينَ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تُعَلِّمُونَ الْكِتَابَ وَبِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَدْرُسُونَ. Allah Ta'ala goes on to say, be you, O Rabbaniyin, or Rabbaniyun, learned men of the religion, who practice what they know, and they also preach it to others, because you are teaching the book, and you are studying the book, ya ikhwan. I come from, like I said, brothers, and some of the ancestors and some of my family members, they take Bible studies serious. Well, they go to the church 2-3 days a week, and they have their Bible out, and they highlight it, and they ask questions to their priest, or to their father, as they call it in their religion. We as Muslims, ya ikhwan, we should be better than them, as Allah told us that we should be studying the Book of Allah Azza wa Jal, ya ikhwan. And you cannot study the Book of Allah, ya ikhwan, without the tafsir of the Quran, ya ikhwan. And I can remember a really good friend of mine from amongst Ahl al-Arab. He was sitting in a dars of one of the other sheikhs of the Ahl al-Arab. An amazing thing happened. The brother was sitting there. Now his language is the Arabic language. And another sheikh, he said something. He said an ayah about the Book of Allah. The brother at that time, as we have, there's so many new apps now, the brother put in the ayah and he read more than 9 tafsir within 10 minutes about that ayah. And then he put up his hand and he said, Sheikh, I have a question. He said, Tafaddal. So Sheikh, where do you get this understanding from for this ayah? The Sheikh said, this is what I think it means. Brothers, we have to be careful. The scholars of Islam have written tafsir thousands of years ago what the ayah from the Book of Allah mean. Some people now are coming and saying, you know what? I have a PhD at ABC or 1, 2, 3 in mechanics or acrobatics or gymnastics, or he's, what they call it, an engineer. So he has the name doctor, but he never really studied Islam, but maybe he speaks the Arabic language. He said, well, I think this ayah means that. Yeah, well, we have to be careful, because we're living in a time now where people, they've been compromised, ya ikhwan. If it's not coming from the book and the sunnah and the understanding of the original generations of Muslims, we can go astray, ya ikhwan. Now, I've been Muslim for 30 years, and it's been very hard trying to navigate within all the different Muslim groups. As we know, there's 73 groups. And the Prophet said in a beautiful hadith concerning this, that all of them will end up in the hellfire except for those who follow the book and the sunnah tenaciously. Abdu alayha bin nawajid. We have to cling to it, ya ikhwan. As we know, brothers, one of the things that confused me growing up is the different denominations of Christians in my family. I was so confused. And then someone came and they put the Quran in front of me. And I read the Quran and I didn't find any fault in it, ya ikhwan. So my dear brothers, we're encouraging the brothers to understand that if you are firm upon this and you plant your feet firmly upon Kitab and Sunnah, Allah will aid this community. As Allah Ta'ala wanted to say, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu in tansurullah yansurkum wa yuthabbit aqdamakum. If you want your feet firm, ya ikhwan. And there's times right now, I have to tell you brothers, living in the city of Toronto, we get a lot of information maybe that you brothers don't get up here. We have seen in the last 30 years, people who have memorized the whole book of Allah, half of the Quran, leading the community in the salat. They went to University of Toronto, University of York, or some of those other universities. They met some philosophers, some professors, and the professors got into some dialogue with them. And now these Muslims, they've changed their belief system about Allah and His Messenger. Some Muslims started to doubt the Book of Allah. Some Muslims started to doubt the Aqidah. Some Muslims started to doubt the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My dear brothers, we are living in a time we have to cling on to the Book and the Sunnah, as the Messenger went on to say. And this hadith is collected, ya ikhwan, in Imam Hakim in his Mustadrak, as well as Imam Bayhaqi in the Shu'ab al-Iman, where the Prophet went on to say, Ya yuhannas, in qad taraktu fikum, man iktasamtum bihi falan tadillu abada, kitabullah wa sunnati. O people, I've left amongst you that which with if you cling on to it, you will never ever go astray. The Book of Allah and my Sunnah. So my dear brothers, for me as your brother, wala fakhra wala zaki allahi ahada, no bragging or boasting. And this is even a challenge to our Imam here who invited us today. I think that my library of Islam is probably bigger than all the Muslims here. Because when I left music industry before, all the tapes and all the CDs and all the records, they told me these things are haram. So I replaced all of that, I burnt them all, I threw them all in the garbage. And in our culture, ya ikhwan, we collect all that stuff. The Muslims said you can collect books of Islam. So from the time that I embraced Islam up until now, I have what is called hirs. It is a fervent desire to buy as much Islamic books and to read as many as I can, ya ikhwan. Because I know that this is one of the ways for me to get to the Jannah is by seeking knowledge. And as the Prophet said, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ, knowledge is learned through studying. So my dear brothers, if it's one ayah, if it's one hadith, if it's a few pages of the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, read it with your family. As I was traveling up from Mississauga today, we were reading a story of the Qisas al-Nabiyin. My daughters were reading to me, and I was explaining to them what the Sheikh was trying to say, what they call taqrib al-ma'na, the nearest meaning of what the Sheikh was saying. They were teaching me, and I was explaining to them. I was reading from the books of the Sheikhs through the tongues of my daughters, ya ikhwan. Let your family read to you. And then you go and you do a research, and then you correct them if they're wrong, ya ikhwan. We have to teach our family. There used to be something called durus before COVID. There used to be something called ta'aleem before COVID. There used to be something called bayan before COVID. But it seemed as though we're in a state of comatose, ya ikhwan. We're just waiting for it's okay to worship Allah. No, we can worship Allah in the day and the night, in the summer and the winter, every time, ya ikhwan. Nothing should change for the believer. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله وسلم المسلمين جميعا فاستغفروه إنه غفور رحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Brothers, what the Ummah needs right now, and you can ask Sheikh Yahya while I'm not here, you can ask him about this, something called tawjihat, direction, ya ikhwan. The Ummah is lost in the sauce, as the youth say. Lost in the sauce. There's so much sauce going on and everybody's throwing all kinds of stuff in it. We don't know what's in the sauce no more. We're lost. We need tawjihat. We need direction, ya ikhwan. Many of us believe that if we get a degree, and if we get a good job, and if we get a good car, and if we get a good house, and these things can become halal if your niyyah is right. But we believe that if we have that, we got Jannah on earth, and we're okay. Brothers, we need direction to get to the akhirah. The akhirah, we need zad al-ma'ad, ya ikhwan. We need some provisions to get there, and one of the provisions, ya ikhwan, is taqwa. And you will not learn taqwa unless you read the book and the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are Muslims who came before us, ya ikhwan, that were more righteous than us, that followed the path of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They are successful. We have not reached success. And a dear friend of mine, I just buried him 2 weeks ago, ya ikhwan. 2 weeks ago. And we believe that Allah, brother, he was salih. And we believe that, brother, he was a righteous man. And this particular janazah that we went to, brother, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to end it. The brother, they left the coffin open a little bit so anybody that wanted to see him, and the brother had a smile on his face from here to here, brothers. And that, inshallah ta'ala, is a good sign, binillahi ta'ala. Ya ikhwan, that he met the Malik al-Maut. He's going to come and knock on my door. He's going to come and knock on Imam Yahya's door. If you don't think that the Malik al-Maut, the angel of death, is going to come and visit you, brothers, you need to give your head a shake. This is a reality, my dear brothers. Tomorrow, inshallah, I've been asked to go and talk in another community out in Brantford. A sister passed away a few days ago. Brothers, take benefit in the life that you're living. Today is Yomul Jumu'ah. Do not forget that before Maghrib there is a time, the Prophet said, in the Hadith say, that when you implore Allah and you beg Allah for forgiveness, ya akhwan, don't only ask forgiveness for yourself, but for your brothers too. Brothers, this is called a community. When we're making the salat, we say ihdina, or do we say ihdini? We say ihdina, Allah guide us collectively. It's a communal thing. If one of the brothers sees me that I'm slipping in my deen, please pull me up. If I see one of you brothers slipping your deen with good manners, I'm going to try to pull you up. We're a collective community, brothers. Al-Muslim, Akhul Muslim. Innama al-mu'minuna ikhwa. The believers, they're brothers. Doesn't matter what land you come from. Doesn't matter what people you come from. Doesn't matter what tribe you come from. I happen to have an incredible mixed lineage, ya akhwan. One of them is from the people who lived here 200 years ago. But that doesn't make me better than you, brothers. That means I'm more responsible now that I have to give the dawah to ya qawmi a'budullah. I have to give dawah to my people. So my dear brothers, start with yourself first. Ku anfusikum wa a'likum nar. Start with yourself, then your family, then your neighborhood, then your aqrabeen, your family, your close members, and try to tell them that there's going to be a day called Yawmul Qiyamah, and it's coming really soon, brothers. As soon as you die, qad Qiyamah. Qiyamah has started. So brothers, we just don't know when we're going to die. So the message today, brothers, is to cling on to the kitab and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Don't let anybody confuse you or your family, saying, as some of the people have recently said, that the ancient medieval scholars used to say this. This is a slight on the scholars from the past. They're giants. Don't let anybody come now to you and make fun of the scholars. They gave everything to preserve the religion. So now people like Sheikh Yahya, they can go and they can do the research and to show you, brothers, what the people of the past hung on to. As Imam Malik said, that's what's going to give us success. If we deviate from the path and we say, Ihdina siratul mustaqim, if we deviate from that path, brothers, to some other subul, then we'll be destroyed and we'll end up in the hellfire. May Allah keep us upon istiqamah, keep our feet firm, keep our iman firm, keep our taqwa firm, keep our brotherhood firm, and keep our love for the Islam and the Muslims in every land. May Allah forgive me and forgive you. May Allah unite the Ummah Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. May Allah help all the people in all the lands, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim. As you know now, brothers, more than 751 people from the people of this land is what they know, is what they're saying now. I knew this since the time that I was young, that they're wiping out ancestors from my family, brothers. We hate oppression in any form, wherever it is, brothers, and we've been told to stand up for righteousness, but first we need to be righteous first. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لكم وسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.